Hello,
Hey.
everybody! Happy December! I cannot believe it. I went to make the links for this and I named it November 2022. And then I was like, happy December. Holiday season coming up for many of us. Welcome to .NET MAUI Community Stand-Up. Last one of the year. I am Maddy Montaquila. I am a PM on the MAUI team, product manager is what my job is. And I'm here with my good friend.
Hey, y'all. David Ortinau, product manager. Oh, I haven't done that in a while. Product manager on the .NET MAUI team. And I turned my desk around so you get to see the other side of my room. And nobody cares, but
no,
it's cool.
It screwed me up. Dave took 2 whole weeks off. And he actually didn't check email for most of those 2 weeks, which in the 4.5 years of working together, I don't know if you've ever done that. So
well,
I'm very proud.
I'm not exactly known for being the best emailer, but yeah, direct messages. I updated my handle on the stream here. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh, wow. You're a real mastodoner. Sam and I were talking about this before you were joining. It doesn't have enough meme for me yet to check it regularly. So it's just, I haven't made the habit, but I'm on there. Sam's on there. Yeah. We're all on there.
It's new, it's fresh. So if anybody wants to follow me there, I'm currently paying more attention there than Twitter. So
wow. And we are, of course, with the wonderful, the expert who's going to make us look like absolute rookies on live stream. Sam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, howdy, folks. Clearly, you saved the worst for the last community stand-up of the year. But no, glad to be here. I'm glad to be here. I'm Sam. I've known Maddy and David for a long time, and it's good to see so many of our friends in the chat room. Names that we see around doing stuff with the .NET. So good to see you all.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know Sam, A, how? He's amazing. B, he works with one of our control vendors that makes amazing Xamarin, MAUI, and other controls. But Sam's really kind of like the MAUI guy. And you'll see him at conferences and writing amazing blogs, including, share my screen, the Sands of MAUI blog every week. So if you need a recap of all of the amazing things that have happened in the past week in MAUI world, Sam's got you covered. And Sam will be showing us how to make really polished .NET MAUI UI. If you have never been to a .NET MAUI community stand-up before, the way these roll is we're going to talk about some blogs, usually community-based, although this week I have a lot of Microsoft logos. You'll see why. Lots of things shipped. It's exciting. Dave will take you through some PRs, some libraries that he found interesting, given or created by the community. And then Sam's going to take the second half of this to do whatever he wants. He can talk about his life. He can talk about Mastodon. He can talk about Progress Telerik controls for MAUI. Anything that he wants. So it will be a fun one. First and foremost, if you missed, I put the links in the chat. You can follow along with those. Let me also put up the ticker. Haha. Woo. If you missed .NET Conf, that happened this month. Oh, don't start playing. Thank you. Please. My goodness. .NET Conf is the annual live stream, biggest live stream event for .NET developers. And it was 3 days this year. 2 of those days, I think we streamed 24 hours through, which was amazing. And there's a ton of MAUI content. There's a ton of all types of content, but you're welcome to go through and click watch all these things. They have all been re-uploaded now from the live stream into this playlist. There was the State of .NET MAUI talk, which was basically community stand-up, but Dave and I had slides and had to be a little bit more put together than we are on these things. And then that came with a couple different MAUI talks, and then throughout the other days, there were more. It was awesome. Great time. .NET Conf Twitter hashtag was lit. So check that out. The reason .NET Conf happens in early November is because that's also when we ship the new versions of .NET. And .NET 7 is the one that just shipped. I feel like the numbers are moving very quickly. And so, of course, .NET MAUI, as part of .NET, shipped with .NET 7 general availability. And now MAUI is officially like GA on the .NET release cycle. There's no more like MAUI shipped halfway through .NET 6. Nope. We're servicing things with .NET. Like we're in. We've done it. And it's very exciting. And .NET MAUI 7, .NET 7 with MAUI, .NET MAUI on .NET 7. We have a great and strong brand that I totally know how to follow. is great. It's awesome. We shipped a bunch of things. There's a lot of things that happened on the desktop world, like secondary click and pointer stuff. Also, a ton of performance improvements. We were getting tweets left and right and toots left and right. That's the Mastodon one, if people didn't know that. I think it's very funny. Toots. About performance improvements just from like bumping the version of .NET 6 to .NET 7, because you literally just change the thing. And then it's just faster. So you're muted, Dave. Nice try, though. Is this the second meeting we're on? This is the second meeting in a row that Dave did this on, just FYI.
I was looking at the wrong screen. So there are some, yes, you do get performance improvements just going from 6 to 7. If you're noting some collection view, like significant slowness that you're looking to improve upon, check some of the, maybe it's documented in the issues and the feedback. Essentially, you want to make sure that you're sizing your collection view properly. Don't wrap it in a scroll view, for example. And you'll see a performance improvement for that too. So there's been some guidance. Look for some Jonathan Pepper's issue responses and PRs around collection view performance on the Maui repo, and that will give you some tips and tricks as well to improve your code a bit and see those performance improvements. While we do talk about obviously the wonderful new things that are here, really the bulk and the majority of all the effort in this release, as well as now, for the Maui team, is quality. So we are, closing gaps on controls and fixing bugs and functionality. And one fantastic one. This is just a funny story. If your UI switch or your switch view, what do we call a switch view? If it's greater than 100 units wide, suddenly accessibility just disappears on iOS. Just disappears. And it's not us. We didn't do that, but we worked around it. So
cool.
Like that's the kind of bug fixing that we get to do in the upcoming. That's actually in the upcoming release, service release on .NET 7. So lots of that kind of stuff is happening, but that doesn't necessarily make for a great blog post and headlines. So I take the opportunity to share that with everybody.
Yes. Yep. We had one of the engineering leads like into like bug fixes on the tooling side, on the VS side, and we had closed over 80% of bugs that had been filed on us since we shipped Maui GA in early August. We had closed those by the time .NET 7 had released, which either meant fixed or like marked as duplicate, because that happens. But that's really cool. Like to keep up with a GA product's bugs at 80% is pretty solid. I don't know. Maybe some people are like, I have no bugs on my product. That would be wonderful. But as you all know,
it's a small product, isn't it?
Yeah. That being said, tooling, .NET MAUI is now available GA and VS for Mac. That doesn't mean that it is done. It means that it is general availability. You can get it in the stable channel. It works pretty well. People use it. People use it in production. Of course, there is more we're going to do. And I think the next thing that we really want to bring over is maybe the XAML Live preview, where it like reflects it on the running app. Definitely .NET hot reload, so you can change your C# and all that stuff. But basically what you could do with Xamarin Forms in VS Mac, you can do with Maui now. And it's awesome. And we have the templates in there. And that's really the hardest part. It's just making the new app. So this was Zoren's first blog post, by the way. So leave her a nice comment. It was great. She's on our team. And then there was also, like today, a new community toolkit update. So I have not had any time to actually look into this besides scrolling through this blog earlier and being like, oh, I should really add this. But it's pretty cool.
No, this one's great because state layout is in there. And that is one that I have been yearning for. So state container, I guess they renamed it too. But essentially what this is you can see it. So as you have a UI from a user experience perspective, you want to kind of give them an indication that something's loading. It's going to look something like this. And then it loads. So rather than just only having spinners, it gives you more information as a user. So I love it. And now I can update Zappy.
Oh, exciting. Okay. Jesse's been doing this amazing blog series, .NET MAUI Forget Me Not, and this one's all about unit testing, which we never talk about because it is so boring. But it's super important. So Jesse's
don't say
about
that. You're gonna get Alan Ritchie all up in your chats. It's not boring. It's amazing.
But yeah, you can do testing, and that's cool, and you should, and do it and follow his blog. I'm flying through these because I know we have a lot to get to. Ask Zammy, Leo Marine, who I believe is working on a blog for the official Microsoft Dev blog, which would be cool if we could get that out in time for the next stand-up. It's talking about Z-index, which one is one of the like little things that I love about Maui. There's a lot of little things. Fuel testings for the week. Yeah, you're right. I agree. Z-index is like the depth of a stack on your page, if you will. So you say like you have a bunch of pictures, or like Tinder. Think about Tinder. I don't know how many people are on Tinder. I have been in a relationship for 7 years, so I have not used Tinder since the very early days. But you swipe left and right, and under it is another person to swipe on. That's the Z-index, the Z-index of potential matches, right? So pretty cool. We supported in Maui. It's awesome. This is nice. And yeah. I found this morning. .NET Christmas 2022. .NET Advent Calendar. So for those of you who don't know what an Advent Calendar is, oh, shoot. I have to start mine. Oh, my goodness. We have a Lego one. So what an Advent Calendar is every day leading up to Christmas, you open up something, or you like usually it's like chocolates or little toys, or like you light something up, like you light a little light. But every day you get closer to Christmas, you get the next day. And there's 25 of them. And so I have a Lego one that last year we did Star Wars. This year we're doing Guardians of the Galaxy. So I need to start that as soon as this is done, because obviously that's the most important thing to do today. But there's also an Advent Calendar for blogs on .NET. And so the first one is this one about neural networks and observability. I want to know, I actually don't know enough about this .NET Advent Calendar to tell you if this fella Wolfgang is going to be the one writing every single blog. If so, major props to you. If you are outsourcing them to the community, that's cool. But yeah, cool. Got to get in the holiday spirit or whatever, if that's what you're into. But basically, he ported an old Windows Phone app to Maui. So I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff. This is a very in-depth blog, but I found it interesting. It was about neural nets with, OCR, optical character recognition. Is that what the word is? Yeah. I know things. But it was cool. I enjoyed kind of scrolling through it, and I didn't really understand much about it because I don't really do any neural net stuff. But yeah. So those are my blogs. I will send the links again. Again, we always have this beautiful URL list, and I have to put them in the chat. Cool. And that, Dave, is your cue.
Yes. Excuse me. Yes.
So before you switch over, that's just the .NET Advent Calendar. There are actually several Advent Calendars. It's very nice. There's a C# one. There's a Maui one as well. So just look around. Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is why we bring Sam to all these things, because he's the best.
I saw a question here in the chat that I want to talk about real quick. Jose Silva is asking, could you talk a bit about what are handlers, renderers, and custom renderers in .NET MAUI? So it's not what's on the screen here, so maybe I should. I have a new keyboard. So I got, can I do this? Can I show you my keyboard? So I just unplugged it. So I've got a Moonlander, and I just got it. So my typing is going to be a bit slow.
Is it QWERTY?
It is actually QWERTY right now, yeah, but I was going to try something else. But it's ortholinear, so where it puts your fingers and everything is slightly different. But let's do .NET MAUI custom. Oops. Yeah, I can type. All right, so I have a wiki. Yay! And oh man, if I have to zoom in, I'm in trouble. There we go. I can use the control scroll. So firstly, handlers is new in .NET MAUI. It was not part of Xamarin Forms. And what we essentially did was we took the renderer architecture, renderers at the platform level. So let's say a UI button. That UI button implementation on iOS has direct knowledge and connection to Xamarin Forms objects and references and bindable things, right? So it's very tightly coupled. What we did in .NET MAUI, and I say we, the engineering team and the super smart people, based on some experiments that we did in Comet, which I'll talk about in a minute from James Clancy, it's a complete decoupling of that. So handlers now, essentially, you can think of it as one property or one event to one implementation. And so there's a lot of extension methods and everything. All this code is much more shared, but also decoupled. So what this means is that there's not just one UI button thing that does everything. You have a mapper. And so let's say that you're changing the text color. Text color property is mapped to an implementation for the iOS side of the house. And then that makes it all happen. So it's a handler and a mapper in an implementation, and it's all multi-targeted. Sam, how's that explanation? Is that good? Make sense?
Absolutely. In fact, I might try to show off a little bit of that as well.
Okay, cool. By the way, a little retro Xamarin mug. Just showing off all the stuff on my desk today. I don't know why anybody really cares, but I'm not watching the chat. So why am I? Oh, Alan. Yeah, well,
Oh, I was muted. I said it's because you're so cool.
But when I read that, I was like, why do you wound me? And I'm like, wound? I'm not winding you up. What? Yeah, I've been on vacation for 2 weeks. What can I say? All right. So that's the fundamental difference, is the decoupling and the reusability of code and things like that. However, the renderer as a pattern for how you interact with the native platform still exists in .NET MAUI. And so this wiki article right here, which I can drop into because I know how to use my keyboard now. Oh, crap. There we go. We'll give you information on how you can bring your existing custom renderers over to MAUI. The one thing that I will note about it is that the actual implementation of those platform things still uses handler mapper implementations, but it is not, but it is using the same pattern. So there may be some slight behavioral differences, because when we brought code from Xamarin Forms to .NET MAUI, we corrected some sins of the past, right? And so some of those quirks and things like that you may be used to in Xamarin Forms that weren't the way we expected them to behave, or they were inconsistent, for example, with other layouts, that's been corrected. So wanted to answer that question because I think that's really, really a good one, and it shows off some of the value of .NET MAUI. All right. Zoom. So let's get into some of the community things. What have y'all been up to? And what should you be taking advantage of? Matt Lacey put together this Visual Studio extension. You can plug this in and it will give you kind of a templates on steroids, if you will. Although steroids, I guess, are typically bad. So I don't know. On good, healthy sugar.
The best baseball was the steroid era. So
yeah.
Sorry,
yes. Well, I am in St. Louis. We did have the Mark McGuire. So that was good. Big Mac land up there in left field. So, of course, this looks familiar. However, when you get down into the other screens here, you can see you get a lot of options: coding styles, navigation styles, pages and features. Kind of reminds me of, what is it, the template? What is that thing called?
Windows Template Studio.
Yeah, Template Studio. Thank you. Which I think Matt may have had a hand in as well. But yeah, so if you're looking for something to give you a little more options to configure your templates out of the box, check this out. Not only this, but I know that I believe maybe Shiny, Prism, VJ, I can't remember VJ's package, but there are quite a few template options out there for you now in the community. If you're using or trying out Maui Reactor, they have their own templates. Fabulous has their own templates. Comet has their own templates. So lots of options for you out there. Don't feel like you need to go start from scratch with a Maui template and then, manually do all the things. There's probably a template out there for you. So check that out. Okay, so I mentioned Comet, and I wanted to call attention to the fact that it is Net 7 ready. So that is really cool. So you can go ahead and take advantage of Comet on Net 7 if you are into the flavor of coding that it provides. So if you are unfamiliar with it, it is kind of a model view update inspired way of doing things. It is all C#. And your views kind of look like this. You have a body. The body creates the UI tree, and then state. You can read all about it here. I'm not going to like teach it in this session, but it is a cool way to go. And one of the really nice things about it is you can do it in VS Code. So James Clancy also hosts the VS Code Comet extension. It uses the same debugger and things like that that power Visual Studio, because it's all open source mono-based implementations for mobile. And so Jesse has gotten involved here and supplied some really nice updates from down under in Sydney to bring it not only to supporting the latest things, but for a while there, like it wasn't loading your projects because the ecosystem had moved forward, so the extension needed to be updated. But I'm really excited about this commit right here, fixed hot reload working. So this is hot reload specific to the Comet implementation. It's not going to give you hot reload for Maui projects in general, but the extension, for all those who are interested, it does give you build and debug support for .NET MAUI applications, regardless of whether you're doing Comet. So, and actually probably still works for Xamarin and Xamarin Forms as well. So if you are super jonesing for some Comet or some Maui in your VS Code, please check this out.
Hey, David.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Just a quick note, while you're talking about Comet, Jose Silva in the chat room, I hope I'm saying their name right, was asking a good question, because like, what's the difference between exactly Maui C# markup and Comet? So my 2 cents is C# markup is essentially you're rendering the visual tree in C#. You can still do full-on MVVM, while Comet is catering to a model view update pattern, so different design patterns. But I'll let you correct me, David.
No, you're absolutely right. The so C# markup extensions and Comet uses extensions, C# extensions. It's a language feature, right? As well. The Comet specifically creates its own controls based on Maui core. So Maui has, it's a little bit of a layer cake as always. And so Maui core is just the bare implementations of controls across the platforms that we support. And then on top of that is Maui, really, as you think of it and as you use it in code. It's the API that Xamarin Forms developers and Maui developers are mostly interacting with. Comet goes directly to core, whereas C# markup extensions are going to work against the Maui layer. So you're using a Maui button, whereas in Comet, you're actually using a Comet button. Because those controls have stateless behavior and the layouts handle things differently, so that, for example, when the UI updates based on a data change or a state change, it's actually doing a very intelligent diff of the UI tree and only applying the changes that are necessary, which also gives it its unique hot reload experience, which is why it has its own hot reload extension, so that it can do that very, very quickly. And is optimized for the architecture. Whereas Maui, the hot reload features have been added to it over time, whereas Comet was kind of built with that from the ground up. Good questions. I'm reading some of the other comments, but let's move on. So this brings me to Fabulous. Fabulous is a pure MVU framework, model view update framework. And I noticed that Tim has continued to be hard at work bringing Maui functionality, and he has help from Edgar Gonzalez here, who brought up some consistency updates for Maui. So if you go look at this and pull it down, it's the F# kind of approach to things, very functional. And so it is now using proper layouts that are consistent with Maui, but that's not the only. Oh, I can't go back directly from here. But if you look at the most recent commits, you'll see that there's actually also Z-index support has been added, as well as quite a bit more. So lots of effort and work happening here. In particular, I want to keep highlighting everybody's updating their stuff to Net 7. Woohoo! So that's great. It's not, here's the thing, right? Like going from Xamarin, which is .NET Framework 4.7 or something, to .NET 6, .NET 7 has been a big move, right? Like it's a big shift, no doubt about it. It's quite a bit of work. But these moves from 6 to 7 now, it's like just changing numbers and a couple of APIs that may have been improved. It's not a big deal. So let's get everybody up to .NET itself, and then the road forward, we can start picking up some momentum, and it's going to be really exciting. All right.
You have like 2 minutes, dude.
No, I don't. I've got lots of time.
Okay.
Blazor bindings for Maui. No, I'll wrap it up soon. So this is utilizing Razor templating and Blazor components, but working directly against Maui API. So it's not rendering HTML. It's not Blazor Web View, which you also, by the way, can mix in here. So you could do everything in Razor, and you could have UI like this, which I should just zoom in on because it's awesome. And then you could also have a Blazor Web View in here, and you could be putting HTML-based Blazor components in here. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. And so this is a very active project. Also now, .NET 7 support. In terms of things happening in the ecosystem, tons of new packages and updated packages for .NET MAUI. I'll highlight a few. I am seeing a lot of these. So that tells me that there is quite a bit of need and demand for it. A lot of font-based icon NuGet packages are popping up, and many of them are doing the same thing. But what I do love about it, and you'll get probably the same experience with all of them, is that you can just drop, whether it's an image or it's text, labels, and things like that, you can just use the icons directly here. And this one in particular has its own icon control. So I think that's a pretty nice implementation and nice detail that's added to this one. Javier has been super duper busy. So if you're looking for some alternative views and controls, in particular, those that are drawn with graphics, because you get a bit more control over how they look, as well as you get some kind of inherent performance gains from it. Check out Aloha Kit. In addition to Aloha Kit views, he's added his animations library, works both in C# and in XAML. And then he has added his layouts, which he's been noodling on for quite a while. He's rolled it up into Aloha Kit. So you should check that out as well. Let's see. Oh, I get asked about this pretty frequently. So like, when can we do Maui on ARM64 Windows? It's coming. It's coming real soon. So I was actually just talking to Jonathan Peppers and the team about it this morning, because I asked them like in every meeting I'm in. And we should have some packages that are building and can be tested with even as early as later today. And so it's coming soon. The tooling then needs to be validated on top of that, and then it'll be in a near future release. So I'm excited for that because I have an ARM device sitting at my feet, and I'd like to be able to bring it up to where my hands are. Let's see, a couple more. I wanted to call attention to the project board here, because again, I was mentioning that really the majority of the work from the Maui core team is on SDK quality improvement. And you can see that all of our sprint plans and we call them iterations on the project boards are all available for you to see here. So if you want to see what we were working on between November 1st and the 25th, that's here. At the end of every sprint, we spend a week dog fooding and doing quality of life improvements for the product and things like that. And then I had a search here. Who knows what? Oh, I was searching for the custom renderers thing. One last thing. and then Sam, it's all you. I wanted to call attention to, and I don't have a link for it here, but you should go find the YouTube .NET Conf presentation for Avalonia, and you should watch that because they showcased how you can bring Avalonia controls into .NET MAUI applications. Avalonia is another .NET UI-based framework that's out there, also supports Linux and is primarily WPF, but has some mobile as well. And it's all Skia-Sharp-based UI. And so they did the work to host their controls inside of MAUI. There's been some additional work, which is probably on Reth's GitHub somewhere, where I didn't pull it up in time to show everybody, but I'm giving you hints to go look for it, because it is also enabling things like binding to those controls, and a closer use of those controls behind MAUI controls. So basically turning them into handlers as well so that you have options. So it's really cool stuff. I wanted to highlight that. Big shout out to the Avalonia team for pulling that together and our MAUI team for kind of the collaboration. Hope to see more of that in the future, because anything that we as a whole .NET ecosystem can do together, I think benefits all of us. And not just that, but our vendor ecosystem as well, which is my segue to Sam.
All right. Yeah, good stuff.
Take over, my man.
Yeah, I got what, 27 minutes. That's not.
Yeah, we can
I don't
go.
know.
There's no rules here.
All right, let me move some windows around. Share my screen.
Hide all your Christmas shopping. I mean Santa.
Yeah. All right. Hopefully you can see my desktop. Just real quick, because I think James was asking in the chat about native audio player. You can actually do that. There is a thing called Media Element that's a separate NuGet package, but it's a part of the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. If I can resume my journey here, so. David or Maddy, do you have an update on this? Because I think Gerald and some of them are working on this.
Yeah, I think there's continued work on it. I saw a message from Gerald that said that he had hoped to have it ready for Net 7 release, but he acknowledged that was a bit optimistic given all the other things that we were shipping. So it's in progress. I don't know that we have a date for it.
Yeah, and I think, if you're just looking to play like a pew pew sound, like there's a plugins audio that's just for small, playing a sound bite or a video in your MAUI app. But if you're looking for a native audio video player integration, then I think Media Element is your best bet. All right, let's talk about where I come in and where we come in the ecosystem a little bit. I stand on the shoulder of giants as I speak today, but just a little backdrop. I work for Progress Software. We do a lot of different things to make developers a little bit more successful in whatever you're doing. Digital experience, DevOps, app and file transfer security. But the bulk of where I work is UI and UX tools, and that's where you likely know us as makers of Telerik or Kenda UI or Fiddler and Sitefinity and CMS and Rules Engine and all the things. So UI UX is where we love being, and we make UI components, UI component suites, and UX tools for all things .NET and JavaScript as well. So all across, web, desktop, mobile, IoT, you name it. So that's where you can, go and get started. If you are looking for some, polished UI to just drop in your apps, you want things to be performant, well engineered, well tested. So that's where we roll. So speaking about where things are on mobile land, we have been on the Xamarin journey. Like I remember early days of Xamarin. Like we had Telerik here for Xamarin, I think back in 2014, 2015, and those were the early days. And we went strong for 6-7 years, and it's still out there. And we have hundreds of customers who are using UI for Xamarin to make native cross-platform mobile apps, and we are trying to help those folks move over to MAUI. But right now, a lot of the investment, a lot of the love is obviously going into .NET MAUI. So this is our newest UI suite. I will show you this real quick because like Maddy and David will remember, if I show you some of my installations of Telerik UI for Maui, the first one, like 001 semantic version, this was May of 2021, like after like the second release of Maui. So we have gone from 001 all the way to like 1.0, which was GA on the day when Maui shipped, and then we are quickly up to 4.0, which runs on .NET 7. So it's been a journey, and we are trying to make developers more productive with UI that enterprise level UI that you just want to drop in and try to ship your apps a little faster. Lots in it already, so I'll try to show you some apps that give you an idea of what those are. But as we speak, we're trying to cater to a couple of different audiences here. One is we have, and David and Maddy do this as well. We have customers who are on Xamarin Forms, and we are trying to help them get on .NET MAUI. So we in fact. Let me see if I can pull up a link here in our docs. So, if you're migrating from Xamarin Forms to Maui, there is, .NET Upgrade Assistant. There's a lot of help. And if you're using our bits, we'll try to help you over as well. But in the same vein, we also have a lot of enterprise customers now who are looking at .NET Maui as the next generation of .NET, cross-platform story. And that involves desktop big time, which is what .NET 7 really, provided a lot of ammunition for. So we have customers who are using, .NET Maui to build real desktop apps. So our UI for the first time has to cater to both mobile and desktop, and that's not a thing to take lightly because it's a lot of UX differences between mobile and desktop. So again, if you're interested in some of the desktop-y things that Maui can do, do a search. There's a lot of documentation. There's a lot that's been done, trying to make sure you're reaching desktop in a good way. There's a lot of things that are inbuilt, and the ecosystem and the community is trying to step up to help. But things like menu bars, things like multiple window and their management, their sizing, the XY coordinates, tooltips, navigation, what else? Context menus, all of that is done. So you can actually make really, really high quality desktop apps with .NET Maui, and that's where we try to come in. So if you look at where Telerik UI for .NET Maui is, it's been a journey, but we are trying to give you all the tools that you need out of the box to build, cross-platform native apps for Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android. So how do you get started? Well, you can just head up here, hit that, try button. You're going to get a full download of everything that we do. It is timed. Beyond that, it's a little subscription model, but you get everything, and we get you the source code and tons of documentation. We really stand by, supporting folks who are using our stuff. So, the same engineers who build this stuff are the ones who are helping you out. So that's the easy way. You just, sign in and you get an installer, and that's how you get all of these bits that I just showed you. Or you can, forget about the installers, just go into your .NET MAUI project and just right-click, get a NuGet package, and you're up and running. So these are all our .NET MAUI bits. If you do run through an installer, you get a whole lot of binaries and some, packages. We do include the NuGet packages in there, and some example apps that kind of help you see where things are. So just so you know, I am right now running on .NET 7, as should everybody. I actually cleaned up a whole bunch of things recently because I had just about every preview that you can think of. So if you look at my SDKs, if I can type right, so I don't have any preview bits now. It's just 3, 5, 6, and 7. So it's a good place to be. Stable tooling both on Visual Studio on Windows and on Mac. So when you start out using our tools, you're going to get a few examples, and you don't need to install anything. 2 of these examples that I'm going to show you, those are actually also out on the app stores. So if I head out here to our some of the sample apps, so be it on iOS or Android or Windows, just get out to the app stores, do a search. You're going to see these 2 apps, so you don't need to take my word for it. You can play around with the UI yourself and see what it can do. See if any of those make sense for your app. So let me actually pull up Visual Studio. This is Visual Studio for Mac here, and I'm pulling up that control sample. All of this is, by the way, what you get out of the box when you do the installer. So let me just go ahead and run this. And this is all real. It's going to do a build, and it's going to pull up on Mac Catalyst. And in the meantime, let me know, Maddy, if there are any questions I can help answer while it's building this.
Where's your Windows machine, Sam?
Oh, it's on. It's under my, I got, multiple Windows machines. I have a big streaming tower, and then I also have a VM
I know.
that I travel with. But
we
yeah,
got some cranky comments on our presentation about why are you using Macs? And it's
Hey,
like,
it's
no, I use them all.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, over my break, I was using a Linux machine. Everybody said
Exactly.
that.
Ooh. It's
It's
funny
all
because
a
sometimes
default
people will
setting.
be like, you guys never show Mac. Show more Mac. And then we start showing Mac, and some people are like, why are you showing a Mac? See, you just can't win. It's okay.
Can't win.
You just can't win.
All right, so I'm showing you this on the Mac, but you can pull this up on Windows and iOS and Android. The app works the same way. Some of the navigation is different, but this is a showcase of all the UI that's in there. There's a lot. So I'll just, jump through a few of the newest ones. Autocomplete is new. So when you start typing, you want users to, see what some of the suggestions are. So it's, simple, but it takes a bit of, templating work to, get that going. And so as I start typing, you can make things however you want. You can customize exactly what that looks like with icons and whatever. But the things that you are really coming to us for are the heavy hitting controls that are really difficult to do by hand. So charts and graphs and data grids, right? So let's take a look. We are known for our charts and graphs. All types of area charts that you can think of. And I'll walk you through exactly how we render some of these things. There are some differences. So lots of bar charts, as you can think of, horizontal, vertical, financial series. So these are the kind of things that enterprises are looking for that you don't want to do by hand. These are all actually native, by the way, on both iOS, Android, and Windows. Line series charts, scatter series charts, and everyone likes pies and donuts, right? So we got them as well. So that's all the charts and graphs. And then the big thing is, and this one's new, actually, data form. Before I get to the data grid, if you have a big, C# object, that's your business object, and you just want to render a form, because it's like forms over data, it's kind of simple what you're doing, then you don't have to bind all of that UI yourself. You just give the data form all of your object, and it'll, do a little bit of reflection and try to render all of the right UI given the properties and the objects that you have in that object. And it's going to do all of that, and then you can bind it to SQL Server or Entity Framework, whatever it is that you're doing. So this whole form was rendered without writing a line of XAML, because it just knows how to. Based on the things that you're giving it in the object. And then the data grid, this is, kind of bread and butter for just about every desktop app that you can think of. Also true for native apps now. So this is a full feature data grid, does, sorting, filtering, localization, globalization, anything that you can think of. Some of the new ones that we have added for enterprise customers is, frozen columns, being able to resize things easily. Grouping is nice, so you can have a ton of data that you're binding. It actually does virtualization. So if you give it 1 million records, it's smart to not, try to render 1 million records all at the same time. So now we can, do grouping really nicely. So, these are like flights, and now it's grouping things by, flights to Berlin, and flights to Istanbul, and so on. So yeah, and also kind of goes with grouping. We also have like aggregate support, which is this is I don't know what is it in Argentina, but you get the the order totals at the end of the that group. So full featured grid as you expect. We have customers who come from WPF or WinForms, and they're looking to migrate things over to .NET MAUI because they now want to go on Mac, and maybe eventually these are folks who are doing desktop first, and then eventually they'll get to mobile, and I mean the same source code will get you there. So a lot of that is done and taken care of for you. We got all of these controls. Some of these things that don't get enough love is we have what's called document processing library. That's actually .NET standards based library. I mean, it's not .NET standard, it's just .NET library. And so it powers the same things for Xamarin and MAUI and Blazor and WPF, all the same things. So if you're dealing with, let's just say, PDF documents or Word documents, and you want to manipulate those documents, you want to build up reports, all of that is done for you. So it's very easy for me to just I have programmatic access to just about everything about the document that I'm trying to build, so I can go to town and handle things very natively. The same way for Word and zipping up libraries. So all of this is out there. And if you get into any of the demos, you tap on that show me the code, it actually takes you to the GitHub repo, which will show you exactly how we are rendering it. Or you can just look at all the code here. It's we don't use any other MVVM framework. It's just natively what's done out of it, .NET MAUI. So in terms of how these are rendered, you look at, the list of controls we have. We have had, 7 years of doing Xamarin Forms. So we have actually still more on the Xamarin Forms land than we have on Maui. They're coming over. So a lot of them are now handlers, about 95% of handlers. And you still have some custom renderers for some of our controls, but they perform just fine. And, and if you have investments in custom renderers, you don't have to, throw them all away. You can take your time moving things over to handlers, and they just act fine. And we also use Skia Sharp to make things pixel perfect as we can on Windows or Mac. So that's just a quick sample app. And let's switch gears a little bit. I wanted to show you a couple of more things here. This one I really love. It's a crypto tracker app. It's not real, by the way. It's not pulling any data from anywhere. It's just local JSON feed. But I wanted to show you how this kind of applies to as we are thinking of building mobile apps or desktop apps. Let me actually fire this up. It's .NET MAUI gives you that single code base, shared project, shared resources to reach mobile and desktop. But the reality is these are very different experiences. Like, you do not want the same exact experience. So your experiences should be different if you're coming from mobile versus desktop. So here's the simple little sample app that's now running on iOS. All the latest bits, we have Xcode 14 support and, iOS 16.1 as well now, I think. So, it's a cold restart, so it's coming up here on my iOS device. So it's a crypto tracker app, and the experience on mobile is kind of what you expect. It's a list of, cryptocurrencies, and then you can, get into the details of each one. So
yeah, Xcode 14.1 support, Sam, is coming. Okay. So it's currently going through the pipeline right now into QA, and we're also dog fooding it. So shortly that'll all be out. I don't know that directly correlates to 16.1, but it might.
So we have a list of cryptocurrencies. You may or may not want to be in this land, but if you are in, it's a lot of red. But let's say we go into Bitcoin, and it shows you a graph of how the pricing has been over the last 1 month, 6 months, and you can change up the type of graph, and you can look at some historical data, which is in a grid, which you can also sort and filter, all the good stuff. So this is the experience you do want on mobile. But I mean, these are the two views that I have. So there's like a, and by I mean like the engineering team that, puts this together. But we can actually reuse the same views without actually changing a whole bunch of stuff. So let's actually switch this over to running on a Mac. So now we have more, screen real estate. Just because it's the same code base doesn't mean the experience needs to be the same. If you break things down nicely with views, you can actually combine multiple views into one. So your desktop, apps have a little bit more, breathing space, and you're utilizing the real estate a little bit better. So it's building, and it's coming up soon. Almost done. Hey, it's real, right? So it's doing a quick build and trying to, there you go. So same exact app, right? It looks the same, but except now you see the two views that are just like put together side by side, and little, if else compiler, checks will tell you that you're on Mac or Windows. So you can combine a couple of views. So, nice little sample apps for you guys to, play around and see if any of this UI is what you want. The list views, the data grids, all of those are virtualized. So performance is really, really good. And, we try to sweat a lot on engineering front to make sure it works with every MVVM framework. It has commanding support. You can localize things. You can use it with any, icons, whatever it is that you're wanting it, styles, dark mode and then light mode. We try to support you the best we can, so we're not getting in the way of what you're doing. A little bit more here. Let's see if I can load up one more project here. And this also comes with the installation. There's another third project which we don't make a big deal out of because it doesn't have the most polished UI. But as a developer, often you're using a grid and you're using a chart, and you want to customize things. And this is kind of your SDK browser style app that tells you exactly how you do specific things with specific controls. So not the most polished UI. It's not meant to go in the app stores, but it's meant to give you, as a user, as a developer, a real-world project to look at to see how exactly we customize things for every one of the controls. So this one's just going to come up with a list of all of our controls, and then for each one, you get to unique ways to customize things as you want. So this is the list of all the controls that we just saw. But let's just say you want to go into a busy indicator. And this one has lots of custom animations, but if you want, you have your own, custom, like a tire that is rotating while you are building or loading up your racing game, you can do that. So all of that code is out there on GitHub, so you can, take a look and see how we do things. Same goes with the grid. Lots and lots of things with the grid, exactly how you do aggregates, how you do columns, selections, filtering, sorting, decorations. Loading on demand is big because you don't want to load up as many things on the client side if you have a choice. So take a look at all of this. Again, we are just trying to give you all of the source code so you can take a look and see what works for you. Now, we are all all about hardcore .NET native things here, but I am going to switch a little bit to the web side of things, maybe much to the chagrin of David and Maddy here. But I think it's a reality because like a lot of folks, do web apps, maybe with Blazor, and now you're mixing and matching. So of course, if you're doing, Blazor, that will work just fine with web views on .NET MAUI. I'm not sure why I'm getting so many squigglies, but it's all gonna work. It's the new Visual Studio. It's upset about one little thing here, but here is a .NET MAUI project, with the Blazor, the template. So if I go into the project file here, edit project file. So the only thing you'll notice is this one here has the SDK, the Razor style project, right? So that's what .NET MAUI starts out with. And with that, when you look at our NuGet packages, the way they are shaped up, so this is for all things .NET MAUI. But what if you were actually building a web app? Then you go into all of the web stuff, which is Kendo UI for all things JavaScript, and it's Blazor for all things, .NET, and you can also do, ASP.NET, Ajax, and MVC, and Razor. This is about 4 years of, .NET MAUI for us is about 2 years. Blazor is like 4 years, so it's a little bit more mature. It has like 120 plus controls, very, very polished UI, very responsive, works everywhere. And let's just say you're building Blazor apps, right, for the web, and now you want to have the same UI light up on native mobile and desktop land. So absolutely, you can. We haven't come out and said this out loud because it's cannibalizing one thing for another. But have at it. If you want to build your apps with Blazor, you can also bring this to native land. So here in my dependencies, you'll notice that any of the projects here, I can bump up my fonts a little bit because it's short. So let's look at Mac Catalyst. Down below in my NuGet packages, there is actually Telerik UI for Blazor. This is a NuGet package that is squarely meant for web apps, but since we have an SDK Razor style project, it doesn't care. So I can bring that in, and then all I have to do is in my imports.razor, this is the Blazor templated solution. I just need to say, hey, I'm using Telerik UI, and then in my program, I just have to use add Telerik Blazor. That's one extension method that just does a bunch of stuff that's hooked up for it. And that's it. I do have to, bring in one little like CSS and JavaScript file. This is required for all of our, Blazor UI, and that's it. So beyond that, I can, straight up in my, Razor pages inside of .NET MAUI, it's using the web views. I can start rendering a button, a barcode. This one's like a gauge. This one's like a little card. So let's go ahead and run this on Mac Catalyst really quick. So what I'm trying to say is, if you are using anything from us that is meant for web, you should feel comfortable using that on .NET MAUI as well. It just works, right? So this is all Blazor UI. That barcode, the button, the calendar. It is a real calendar. You can interact with it. That's a gauge. That's like a card view. All of your web UI just works on desktop and mobile. And it's just a nice way to share code. You can share some styles. Maybe some of your desktop UI is going to be native. Some of it is Blazor driven, and that is totally fine. So a lot of choices here, and we are just here to help. This might be something I don't think I've actually ever showed this off at a conference, but I will show this real quick because Maddy did mention this. So every Monday, you get what's called the Sense of Maui. This is my little attempt to collect all the things that David and Maddy and the team and the community is doing, trying to increase our collective knowledge. And it's just a little newsletter style post. You can subscribe to this, or somebody had pointed out, why not make it an app? Why not dog food and make this a .NET MAUI app? And I said yes, but I said I will make every bit of this live on stream. So it's been slow going, but this is driven by a CMS. There's like a whole, for every post, there's like a HTML that goes with it, which I don't want to redo. So here is the Sense of Maui app, and I will just go ahead and run this really quick. It doesn't have much because it literally whatever you see is done on screen. So this is actually going off to Azure Cosmos DB because that's my document DB. That's what houses each of the Sense of Maui posts that you see. So it's pulling back a list of posts first, and this one's not actually using the Blazor web view because we don't have any Blazor thing. We just have some plain HTML and CSS to render. So I can tap into the last issue here, and this one's just showing you the same exact issue, but in a web view. This is not the Blazor web view, but it figures out the right web browser component based on Mac or Windows or iOS or Android. So I'm building this, and eventually you can just do a push, or I can do a push, so you get notified of this, and you don't have to come to the newsletter. So that's just my real little thing here. As I've tried every Thursday morning not this Thursday, but most Thursday I try to get up and do a little bit of live coding. But I'm watching the time here. We're almost at time. My point is we are we're trying to help. There is a lot of UI help all around in the ecosystem, but if you are looking for those really hard-hitting components, the things that you need support for, the things that you want to just drop in your app, wire up with any other framework that you're using and be able to ship your apps quicker, we stand by you with our documentation, with our support, and we are just here to help. And we are excited clearly about .NET MAUI and the future of .NET overall, and we are on this journey. So.
And you are helpful. I want to say thank you for that, because there's also help that nobody else necessarily sees. The partnership that we have together, the collaboration with you as a vendor and your engineering teams. I can honestly say the product is better for it. The performance gains that we have found together have been very helpful. And I could say similar things about our other component vendors as well, but you're on the meeting, so. I want to say specifically thank you to you and to all of Johan and Stefan and all of the engineering team, whose names I would fail to mention every single one, and then I would offend somebody, so I won't do that. I listed off people in a meeting yesterday, and I missed somebody important, and everybody was making fun of me.
All right, and I'll stop right there. So, any questions that we didn't respond to?
No, I think Dave covered them if you didn't. So we're looking pretty good.
I think there was one question I noticed here. Do you have a scheduler control?
That's a good question. It's in the works. I cannot commit to a timeline yet, but it's not the first time we have heard the demand, because people are asking for these heavy hitting controls, like same with the ribbons, same with calendars. So it's coming. It's coming very, very soon. I just cannot commit to a date yet. But the roadmap is public, and we are always trying to listen. So feedback.telerik.com, that's where we are all tuned in. If you need something, just tell us.
Cool. Looks awesome. I love it. I love the fact that you have such a expansive Blazor component, set as well. And I love that we can just bring all that stuff in. I myself have been using web views for specific needs in my native apps for years. And I remember once somebody was like, "Wow, how is your app so fast?" And and I'm like, "That's actually a web view. That bit right there that you're so excited about, that's actually a web view." So sometimes that's the best solution, and there's a reason that control is in the box. So don't be afraid to use it. Like, web is not evil. I feel like there's a sentiment for that in native development, and we need to get over it because it's very useful.
It's true. Well, on that note, happy December 1st, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your holidays. And happy almost New Year.
Yes, share your holiday hackathons and whatever you're doing. I want to see what you're doing on Mastodon, of course.
Year.
On Mastodon,
2024, either or. All right, hold on. I have to find the video because I lost my tab. There we go. Now I can turn on the bye video. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
See you soon.